WCLU news coverage of the 2022 primary election is brought to you in part by HVAC Services in Glasgow.
Started out just trying to get a job out of high school, trying to get my foot in the door, trying to get a career started.
We try to be a successful business for our employees and a long-term employment for our employees.
And with this type of trade, and especially with HVAC services, the opportunities are endless.
I don't think there's a better company anywhere in Kentucky.
Welcome to our program today, Mr. Shannon White, who is a candidate for Magistrate District 1 here in Barren County on the Republican ticket. How are you today?
I'm doing very well.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you for joining us today as part of our 2022 election coverage. This is, of course, for the primary election, which is slated to happen May 17th here in Kentucky. So lots of exciting things going on around the political arena. But first, let's get to know you a little bit as a candidate before we get into why you're feeling led to run.
Okay. From 2003 to 2015, I was a member of Barren County government. I was employed with the fiscal court. That gave me a lot of experience with the policies and procedures. I held several positions there, and I enjoyed my time there, and I feel like that led me to where I am today. I believe with what we've seen, with a lot of the incumbents not refiling, that we do need some experience on the court, and I think I can bring that to the table.
Sure. As far as being involved in Barren County government, what were some of those things you were doing?
I was employed as the hazardous materials coordinator, solid waste coordinator, code enforcement officer, and my primary job at that time was dismantling meth labs, which I'm still trained to do that. I still hold my certification in that. And we developed programs here in Barren County that were used not only here as educational resources, but we also were asked to come throughout the region to present those classes, and even at the state level.
Sure. Moving into why you want to run, you mentioned experience, which is always a word used to describe candidates. Yeah. It's always vying to see who's the most experienced. Yeah. Clearly, you mentioned a little bit about your past experience working as a department head, but how do you feel like moving into the position as magistrate that you will best be serving the county that way?
I think that we need someone there that has some of the experience needed for the policies and procedures. We've seen some gaps in that in some of the meetings. I'm not afraid to ask a hard question when it's time to ask it. I'll be the first one to do it, and I won't have to ask anyone else how I should vote. The people that I'm going to ask to vote are the ones that I'm going to represent in District 1. That's who I'm going to ask.
Sure. District 1, just for folks listening or watching, just so they know, that's that eastern part of the city, kind of goes in, dips a little bit into the county out of the city limits. But it is a fairly small district because, as people may know, those districts are divided up by population. So when you think about District 1 specifically, what are some things, particularly for that district, that's relevant in the next term?
District 1 is probably the smallest district of all of them, but the most densely populated, and it's very much the most diverse, from low-end government housing to higher-end housing on the other side of town. It's the thing that I've heard the most while I've been out campaigning is, what can a county magistrate do for me in the city? And I think my answer to every one of them has been, that's something we need to work on. You're paying county taxes, and we need to work on that. We need to get their voice heard. Even though they're in the city, they need to be heard. And the county can offer things to the city that may not be at all times the best idea, but it's something we need to work towards, in my opinion.
Sure. When you kind of think about county government as a whole, some of the things that have been focused on in this last term, of course, really half the term's been filled with the pandemic. There's been a lot of challenges with that. and a lot of things have been deferred. Business relocating here, perhaps. There's been talks of that. Moving forward with economic development and other factors, perhaps, that you feel like will move the community forward. What are some of those ideas you might have?
Well, the biggest one is we've got to quit comparing ourselves to another city and county that's 30 miles down the road. We're not ever going to be that. We've got to focus on ourselves and what we can do for ourselves. And you can get on about any social media post and see all the problems that we have in Glasgow and Barren County. They're out there. Everyone knows them. It's very well written, but we don't have people coming up with the solutions. If we can start coming up with solutions to those problems, we'll start seeing ourselves move forward. And that's what I want to hear. If you come to me with a problem, give me a solution to go with it, because that's how we're going to fix it. We can talk about problems all day and not fix anything without the solutions for them.
You talked a little bit about your experience in county government already working, and the experience part of that. You obviously were reporting to the court with that position. Now you're looking to be on the court. You've mentioned some of those things that you have an idea about moving forward, working together, those sorts of things. What do you think's the one thing that a magistrate ought to possess that you do that makes you a valued candidate?
Well, there's several things. A magistrate's job in today's time is not about gravel and blacktop anymore. Years ago, that was the case. You've got to have a group of magistrates that are ready to work together, look at new ideas, and go out in their community and talk to people and ask them what they want to see here, and then come up with a plan to get it in place, come up with a solution. If it's something that's feasible that we can do and it's going to move this whole county forward, that's what we need to work on.
Right. If you had 30 seconds or so to describe why you're the valued candidate for election in the May primary, what would you say?
I would say that I believe my experience is going to matter next year. If I'm elected to the court, I believe you'll see a difference in that. I think that what I've ran on most is the solutions to problems from everyone, not just District 1, but every district. And I think that it's time we got out from underneath the shadow of another county. We've got to do that.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. I know that was a rather brief interview, but as the nature of this goes, there's a lot more that we could always sit down and talk about and say and whatnot. But we've been talking today with Mr. Shannon White, a candidate for Magistrate District 1 here in Barren County. You'll be on the Republican ticket this May primary. Best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you.